What's going on? Welcome back to the vlog. This is day 4 in Texas. We are currently up $3,525. We're gonna hop into the 1-2 streets of Poker House. Let's go. All right, you guys know that we're back in action at Poker House, the 1-2 cash game. We are in for $500. Let's get right into the first hand. Actually, the very first hand, we flopped a set of kings, but I couldn't get my camera out to film it, so we're going to go to the second hand, technically. We have king, queen of diamonds here in middle position. I raise it up to $20 and get a call from the cutoff and the big blind, so we're 3 ways to a flop, which is jack 5-4 with 1 diamond. As of now, we just have king high, but we have a lot of backdoor draws. When the big blind checks, I'm definitely going to check it over to the cutoff here, try and see a free turn card, but the cutoff bets $15. And the big blind puts in the call, and now we're getting a ridiculous price. It's a pretty nasty float because we just have king high, but we have a backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, and 2 overcards. So I'm going to make the float. I put in the call, and the turn is an amazing card. It's the queen of clubs. Not even improving us to a draw, but improving us to top pair. Now the big blind decides to jam all in for $76. And now I'm kind of in an awkward spot, but I mean, when I turn top pair with a good kicker, I'm not going to fold. I put in the call, and to my surprise, the cutoff calls as well. So now this is getting a little bit sketchy here. The river comes the ace of hearts. Obviously a pretty bad river, but I'm going to check it over to him, and he says 2 pair and checks it back and shows us jack 5 of spades. The queen was a disaster card for us, actually, and he's going to scoop in this pot. We lose a couple more small hands that I'm not going to go over, and we add on for $300 to get our stack back up to $500. I look down at ace 5 of hearts in the under the gun +1. I make it $15 to go and get a call from the small blind. We're heads up to a flop here, which is 9-8-7 with 1 heart. We flop a gut shot to the low end of the straight, a backdoor flush draw, and an overcard, but this board's going to favor my opponent much more than me, so when he checks it over to me, I'm going to check it back and see a free turn card, which gives us equity. It's the queen of hearts. Improving us to the ace-high flush draw here, the small blind bets out for $15. Any 6 would give us a straight, and any heart would give us a flush. So I'm going to stick in the call here, and to the river we go, which is the 6 of spades. We hit the low end of the straight here. Any 10 has a higher straight. The small blind decides to go for a chunky size bet and make it $50 to go, and I'm not going to be folding here when I river the straight. I put in the call, and he shows queen jack. It was a pretty juicy turn, gave him top pair, and gave me the flush draw, but we hit it on the river, and we're going to move right along to the next hand. We have queen 10 offsuit. We're in the cutoff. There's 1 limp. I'm going to raise it up. I make it $15 to go, and we get 3 callers, the small blind, big blind, and the limper. 4 ways to a flop here, which comes ace high. It's pretty dry. Ace 7-3 with 2 spades. Even though we're 4-handed, I do like c-betting these pretty dry boards. There is a flush draw on board, but we do have the queen of spades in our hand, blocking some of those combos that our opponents might have. I don't need to bet too big. I make it $20 to go. We get 1 caller from the small blind here. I'm looking to barrel off on like some spades, some Broadway cards, but when the turn comes the queen of clubs, it gives us showdown value, and I don't think we need to bluff on this card. So when he checks it over to me, I'm going to try to get to showdown as quickly as possible. I check it back, and the river's the 8 of hearts. The small blind now decides to lead out into me for $40. When I check back the turn, this is going to induce a lot of bluffs from the small blind's missed flush draws, missed straight draws. So I think I just have to stick in the call here. He's going to have a lot more bluffs than he is going to have an ace or better. So I stick in the call, and he shows us 5-3 of diamonds for just a pair of 3s. The small blind going for a cheeky bluff there on the river. We're going to win this pot with just a pair of queens. Another offsuit Broadway here. I have king 10 off on the cutoff. There's 1 limp. I make it $25 to go, and we get the small blind and the middle position limper to call. Off to a flop, which comes king high. We finally flop a decent hand. King, queen, 8, rainbow. When the action checks over to me, definitely going to bet my top pair. A lot we can get value from. I bet $25, and both the players put in the call. I'm not sure how comfortable I'm really feeling here. Our kicker isn't the best, and there's definitely some wet cards that could come on the turn. But the turn gives us 2 pair. It's the 10 of clubs. Definitely connects the board a little bit. Jack 9 makes a straight. Ace Jack makes a straight. But when the action checks to me once again, we're going to need to protect from some other hands and get value as well. So I bet out for $70, looking to get called and see a clean river. But that, let me tell you, is not what happens. The small blind says all in. He jams for $380. Middle position folds, and now the action is on me, and we are in a very gross spot here. This is a big jam. I made it $70, and he jammed for $380. I'm not sure. This just feels like Jack 9 or Ace Jack. He could be value betting a worse 2 pair. It's very possible, but something about this spot just doesn't feel right to me. In my mind, there's only 3 hands that we lose to, and that's Ace Jack, Jack 9, and pocket 8s. I do believe pocket eights would check raise the flop as well as king queen, and I'm not really sure if there's enough bluffs to be had. We have the king of clubs, so if he wanted to be shoving with king x of clubs as a bluff, that's not possible because we have that in our hand. So at the end of the day, I decide to just make the laydown, and he shows us the nuts. Ace jack of spades. Dirty turn card. Gives us 2 pair. Gives him the Broadway straight. But I'm glad we could get away from that one. Nice hand. Moving on, we have 9-7 of hearts in the hijack. 1 limp. I make it $25 to go. And the early position limper puts in the call. We're heads up here to a flop which comes 9 high, but it's monotone clubs, 9-8-4. To my surprise, the early position player decides to lead jam all in for $75. Top pair here, I'm not going to be folding. I pretty quickly put in the call. We're off to a run out, which comes the 10 of spades and the queen of clubs. Hate to see that club on the river, but my opponent doesn't have any clubs, which is good. He has queen 8 of diamonds. Gross. He rivered 2 pair. Pretty wet run out, and we're going to lose this medium-sized pot here. This has so far been a session of not many big hands, just kind of some awkward spots. We're trying to navigate our way through, and we're currently stuck a couple $100. Name a better feeling in poker than looking down at pocket aces. Let's go. There's 2 limps to me. I make it $30 to go, and we get 3 callers. So we're going 4 ways to the flop here with the best hand in poker, and we get a pretty good board. King 10 deuce rainbow. When the action checks over to me, there's about $120 in the middle. I'm going to bet a third of that. Don't need to bet too big. The board isn't too scary. I make it $40 to go, and my left snap raises me to $120. When the action folds back around to me, I'm definitely never going to be folding here. I look over, and he only has about $30 left in his stack. So I decide to go all in for 150 effective. He snap calls and quickly shows me top set pocket kings. I would assume he would 3-bet me pre-flop, but hey man, we're in Texas. You just never know what's going to happen. The board runs out. Unfortunate for us. We're going to lose that one. Aces cracked by kings. So sick. Fortunate for us though, it wasn't too big of a pot, but $423 is going to go his way. We add on for another $100, and we look down at pocket 10s here. Another nice hand to look down at. It seems like it's the same pre-flop action every single hand. There's 1 limp. I make it $25, and we get 4 callers. I expect nothing less of this 1-2 game. The flop comes down king 9 deuce rainbow with 2 hearts. Not great going 5 ways to a flop and seeing an overcard to your pair. So the action is going to end up checking around. The turn comes the king of spades. It's a pretty good card because it makes it less likely that our opponents are going to have a king. So when the action checks to me once again, I contemplate betting here, but there's 2 players left behind me. They very well could have checked a weak king on the flop. Our hand probably does need a little bit of protection from overcards and flush draws, but I decide to take the passive route and check. And the cutoff decides to check, but the button does not. He bets out for $50, and the action folds back around to me. Definitely never going to be folding here. I think our hand's going to be good a lot of the time. The button could be just start bluffing with some random hands. He could be value betting a 9. But sometimes I guess we could be behind a king. Definitely not going to fold though. I call, and the cutoff jams all in for $65. Both of us not going anywhere. Does not reopen the action, so we put in the call. We're off to a river, which is clean. It's the 8 of spades. Pretty nice card to see. I think we're going to have the best hand here a lot. I check it over to the button, who checks it back. Fortunately, we're not going to have to call off a big bet here on the river. I show my pocket 10s, and we're going to win this last pot of the night. Pretty nice to scoop in $320. And let me tell you, this session was a pretty big grind. There wasn't too many crazy interesting hands, but believe it or not, we actually end up making a profit of $10. I know, it's quite a bit. $10 on the session, but after clawing back the entire session, it feels like a win to me. Appreciate you guys watching this vlog. That was kind of a grindy session, but you got to navigate your way through those sessions every once in a while. Like I said, we made $10 that session, but it felt like a W. Hope you guys are enjoying the vlogs, and I will see you in the next one. Laters.